Sometimes we look at a person's life and we think, oh, they had a terrible life. Yeah, I thought that sometimes about my own life. I will share my story and the ways that I've had to adjust my thinking. Sometimes I had to adjust my thinking in the middle of a calamitous situation, and other times I've had to adjust my thinking retrospectively. I hope to show you how calamity became a catalyst for change in my life. Where I came from in Chicago on the South Side, the influence of Martin Luther King, he was like Jesus in my house. I'm going to share some stories with you. Some of them are quite catastrophic. But at the end of it, I want you to see I'm still standing here. In 1963, I was born at a time in America where racism was just a way of being. I was born 6 months prior to the bombings in Birmingham, Alabama on the 15th of September. And it was that time in America that activated my parents. So like now we have these little girls that have been killed in a bombing in Birmingham, Alabama. My parents no longer can just think of my basic needs of love and housing. They have to think about how they're going to protect me and my brothers and my sister going forward in the world. And one of the things I think they used to protect me was kind of funny. They believed that what Martin Luther King had said, and I'm going to share this quote with you. It seems that education has a twofold function to perform in life of man and society. One is utility, and the other is culture. Education must enable man to become more efficient, to achieve with increasing facility the legitimate goals of life. Well, Mama and Daddy read the assignment. And they saved, and they scrimped, and they saved to ensure that we could get out of what would be considered a ghetto to a lovely home in a predominantly white community. But Mama and Daddy didn't give up. They kept saving. We moved eventually. And we got a house about in this 1970 or so. And it was about time, at that time, that it was time for me to go to school. And in 1971, America came up with the great solution. We're going to help all these poor, disadvantaged black kids get an education. So they were going to bus me. It was called a busing program. And I was to be bused from my neighborhood, which was kind of mixed at this time, to an all-white neighborhood so I could be educated. And Mama said, no, And she sent me to a private school on the south side of Chicago. Because at that time, it was a calamitous situation in my life. It was a catalyst for my parents to use their influence to change my outcome and the outcome for my sister. So I marched into St. Sabina Catholic School, and I wasn't even Catholic. So I remained in St. Sabina School for the duration of my primary education, and then I went to Queen of Peace High School, got in there, and I'm going to be protected now from this racism because it's a Catholic school and it's religious, so I'm going to be safe. Until I go to the toilet, and I read the sign when I go to use the toilet, and it says, niggers, go home. And I received that rude awakening. So how does one, when something like that happens, when you have been damaged, when you have been hurt, when you have been scarred due to racism, how do you walk up out of that and live in this world? I had to find a way. So what I did was, There was 40 of us, black students. There was 1,400 white students. This was a very, very good school, but we had to go through the neighborhood. So every day, my parents would drop me to one bus stop, and another bus would come and collect me, and I would get to school. We get into the lunchroom, and at that time, Debbie Boone was singing this song called "You Light Up My Life." So I learned that song. I had no interest in rock music. I'm a soul singer. But I had interest in finding a way, an avenue of making it in this school. So I stand up in the school auditorium and I sing, "You light up my life, you give me hope to carry on." All of a sudden, I got a whole lot of friends. I got a whole lot of friends. So one day, coming home, 13 years of age, first year in school. Now, Rosa Parks had already done her thing, with the civil rights movement, and now it was cool to sit on the back of the bus. Sitting on the back of the bus with my friends, and I sneezed. I covered my mouth, I said, "Excuse me," and I carried on talking to my friends. A man got up the back of the bus. He stood glaring at me. But I kind of just don't look at him. I could see the hate in his eyes. I'm not going to look. He stood up as the bus was slowly approaching a stop. He turned to me. "There is no excuse for you niggers." In my face. Calamity, the catalyst for change. That motivated me to get myself right up out of Queen of Peace School, I can tell you, because I knew that my safety, both emotionally and physically, was more important at that time than me going to the best school. I left Queen of Peace, and I went to school in my own neighborhood. And in 1981, just if you went 2 miles west from the school that I was attending in my local school, there would be computers, laptops, labs, research, blah, blah, blah. Calumet High School, where I went to school, I never saw a computer, and I graduated in 1981. And now it's time for me to try to figure out how to get in college. I sit the ACT, and I failed miserably, 13 points out of 36 points. So what am I going to do? I graduated the top 10% of my class, which meant there was a catalyst for change. All I had to do was have high enough marks to get into university, and I got in. I got into university. My first university was Illinois State University. And it wasn't long lasting, but I want to show you and bring you to a point where my life started to change. This isn't it right here, though. Drop out of school, fall in love. My best friend is diagnosed with lupus, one of those diseases that the previous speaker was just speaking about. The girl, my best friend, who taught me how to kiss, who taught me what to do and how to do it. No, not because she was gay, because that's what girls did. You didn't know? You asked the older girl. She was my best friend. She died. I'm leaving the viewing of her body. And just as I walk out, a van comes along, knocks me 10 feet up into the air, down to the pavement, and my pelvis is broken in 9 places. I remained in hospital for 6 weeks, and I was unable to walk when I left the hospital. And I found out that the man who hit me happened to be white, and he happened to be a drunk driver. So I had a choice here. I could spend the rest of my life hating on white folks because all the bad things that happened to me. Or I could learn a different way of looking at it, a different way of changing my perspective, my understanding, my position even sometimes. Tony died, broke my heart, and I was knocked down. But I got this huge pardon upon gratitude bang. And boy, was it a bang. I was limping for a very, very, very long time. But that didn't stop me from doing what I needed to do. I needed to learn to walk again. Came home in a wheelchair. Within 6 months, I was standing up. I was walking. And 6 months after that, I walked up the aisle to get married to my first husband, my former husband, emphasis on the former. Got married, and life wouldn't be easy. Calamity, the catalyst for change. I discovered that I have a serious infertility issue, which requires 5 surgeries for me to conceive one child. And in 1992, May 1st, I gave birth to my daughter, Christiana. I go on and decide I'm going to go back to university because my mother falls ill. She dies of pancreatic cancer. I had 8 weeks with her. She was my best friend. She dies. And I remember what Mama said, education is the key to success. And I told my husband I was going to go to school, and he didn't believe me. And I told him for a year. The day came for me to go to school. I pulled up in my Honda Accord, popped the garage door, and I went to school. Went back. I graduated with honors, a bachelor's in psychology and a minor in biology. My husband then got a job with Motorola. We came to Ireland, and I was going to be totally in control now because I had no right to work, no right to do anything, and there was a lot of things that I was entitled to that I wasn't made aware of. And I have 2 small children. My mother's dead. I got to make this work, and I'm going to make it work in Ireland. And no better place. I got here December 1st, flowers in the summertime. Hello. I'm okay with that. I came here. Within a very short period of time, I met someone. I fell in love. And I decided that it was time now for me to end a marriage of more than 15 years, going against everything that the church would have said, everything the black community would have said, and boy, was that calamity. Some would argue that I brought it on myself. I would say I didn't have a choice for whom I love. And met her. We had the happiest life, the happiest children, so we thought. 4 children who shared a house with myself and my wife. And my boy, the baby, was now coming to his leaving cert, which meant that it was the last one to get out, and then we can redecorate the house. Anyway, we had a bit of a row because my son was like his mama. He was a bit of a rogue. And he decided to hide his Christmas test results, and we had a big falling out when I found out that he had lied to me. He had hid the results. This is the 18th of January. He told me the Christmas test hadn't come in yet. Boy, was he my child. They hadn't come in yet. Mary and I, myself, were downstairs in the kitchen. I had just made a lamb chop dinner, and we had started making the plans for our wedding. And Irby said to me, his name was Irby, my son, "Mom, this is going to be the best wedding ever. I can't wait." I can't do a Cork accent. He could. I'm still a Yankee. And we've made our wedding plans, looking forward to a wonderful life. And we're downstairs, and my son is upstairs emptying out every cupboard in our home, every tablet that he could find. And he overdosed. My only son. Well, the next morning, my daughter went to wake him up. He wouldn't rouse. We called an ambulance. He lived for a time. I told him, we're going to get through this, and I love you no matter what, and I meant that. I loved him no matter what. Myself and my wife were standing there. He was using the toilet, and he turned to me. He said, "I'm sorry," and he died. He never took another breath. Broke my heart, obviously. Hard to talk about it without welling up, without feeling it, and I give myself permission to feel it, to heal it. Irby ended his life, and now I'm making funeral plans 2 days later where I was making wedding plans. Calamity, the catalyst for change. So when you're reached with a calamitous situation, I think you have two choices. You can face everything and run. That's fear, right? Face everything and run. Or you can face everything and recover. I had to make a choice to throw myself into public service. And what I mean by that was, I think it was a week after he passed away, I rang up Eileen Gleason in the Cork Opera House. And I said to Eileen, I want to have a month's mind for my son, and I want it to be a fundraiser for Pieta House. And she's like, okay, I'll call you next week. She thought she's snapped now, you know? No, of course you would think that. So we sell out the whole of the Cork Opera House basically and raise 15,000 euros in one night because of a decision I made to face everything and recover. Calamity, the catalyst for change, means you can stay in it and you can sit in it. I mean, poo is warm, so at least it's comfortable. Right? But it's still poo at the end of the day. So I want to get away from it. Now I dedicate my life to telling stories like these stories that I'm sharing with you today. To speaking to young people, which is the reason that I'm here, is because I made a difference in some young person's life to get me here on this stage today. Because if I focus on the calamity of it all, I'm not going to get up in the morning. But if I look at it as a catalyst for change, then I can see my wife sitting there. I can see my daughter sitting in front of me. I can see the people that matter. And I can't do this whole, when I die and I see him again with Jesus, blah, blah, blah. I can't do that. It doesn't work for me because it just makes me want to die quicker to get to see my boy. So sometimes we have to smash even other beliefs that we might have just to stay here one day at a time. I'm going to share a song with you because if it wasn't for Cork, if it wasn't for the nice white people I met along the way, I wouldn't still be here. Because at the end of the day, the catalyst for change is not that bad situation that happened. The catalyst for change is making a decision to change.